You ever think about how somewhere in Manhattan right now, a 22-year-old is crying in a bathroom stall, making more money in a year than I've made in the last 5 combined? Yeah, me too. Every night. That's why we're doing this. Hi, I'm Frank. I do not work on Wall Street. I have never worked on Wall Street. But I have watched a truly unhealthy number of documentaries about it. And tonight, I'm going to walk you through the 7 levels of climbing the Wall Street ladder. What you make, what it costs your soul, and exactly which rung you should be crying on right now. Quick context before the crying starts. Wall Street isn't one company. It's shorthand for the big investment banks, the ones that help corporations raise money, trade stocks, and occasionally blow up the global economy as a treat. Every one of these banks runs on basically the same ladder. Different logos, same suffering. Level 1. The Analyst. Fresh out of college, still uses the word synergy unironically. This is the entry point. You're 22, you're sharp, and you're about to learn what your body looks like at 4 a.m. under fluorescent light. Frank pays around 100 to 125 grand a year. Sound great, right? Until you do the math on the hours. These kids regularly clock 80, 90, even 100-hour weeks. Break that down, and you're making less per hour than the guy steaming the milk for their oat latte at 5 a.m., which statistically they've also seen because they never left the building. This reminds me of a summer I worked at the car wash. My boss Gary told me, the customer is always right. Right before a guy tried to pay me in expired coupons and a story about his divorce. Analysts have their own version of Gary. His name's usually the vice president, and he does not want to hear about your divorce. Level 2. The Associate. 2 to 4 years in, freshly MBA'd, and somehow angrier than before. This is the level where you graduate from getting yelled at to getting yelled at and being allowed to yell at someone smaller than you. It's the circle of life. If the circle of life ran on spreadsheets. Compensation jumps to somewhere around 175 to 275,000 a year. Most of it gets spent on 2 things: Uber's home at 2 a.m. and a therapist they keep rescheduling because, get this, they're too busy. Level 3. The Vice President. And no, before you ask, this is not the Vice President of the United States. This is a title that roughly 40% of everyone on this website appears to have. This is the age where people start buying nice watches. Not because they need to know the time they have a phone, but because the watch is the only thing left that proves the last decade of their life happened. Frank, VP pay lands around 300 to 450,000 a year, and with it comes a terrifying new power. The ability to ruin an associate's entire Sunday with 1 2-line email sent at 11:58 p.m. This is basically my neighbor Doug, who once texted me at midnight asking if I could hop on a call about our shared fence. Doug does not work in finance. Doug just watched too many of these videos. Level 4. The Director or Senior Vice President, depending on which bank you ask and honestly what mood they're in that quarter. This is peak middle management purgatory. Too senior to actually do the work. Too junior to golf on a Wednesday. Trapped in the worst possible spot. Fully responsible, barely informed. Frank, pay here runs about 450 to 750,000 a year, and they have fully mastered the art of nodding thoughtfully in a meeting about a spreadsheet they have never personally opened. Level 5. The Managing Director. This is the big one. The title your parents finally understand. The one that gets you a better table at the restaurant your firm rented out for the holiday party. MDs typically pull in anywhere from $1 to $3 million a year, and a huge chunk of that is bonus, tied directly to performance, the market, and apparently how many aspirin they can consume without missing a deadline. They also unlock a very specific new skill, the ability to fly private and still complain about the legroom. This is exactly like my cousin Ray, who upgraded to business class one time and now brings it up at every family dinner. Well, when I flew business, Ray, it was a 5-hour flight to Cleveland. Level 6. Partner or senior partner at banks that use that structure. At this point, you're not really an employee anymore. You basically own a slice of the place. Compensation is less salary and more percentage of the firm's soul, landing somewhere in the $5 to $15 million range most years. Frank, the office gets bigger, the windows get taller, and somewhere along the way, they stop saying good morning to people and start saying keep me posted, which, if you think about it, is just good morning for people who have given up on small talk. And level 7, the final boss, the CEO, the one guy Congress calls in for a hearing every few years just to keep things interesting for the rest of us. Total compensation here can hit $30 million or more in a strong year. And most of it isn't even cash, it's stock. Which means, technically, their net worth can swing by more than most people's entire lifetime earnings on a bad Tuesday. A single bad Tuesday, Karen. Some of us just have bad Tuesdays where we spill coffee on the one good shirt. Frank, real quick, because I told you I'd keep this accurate. 2 things people always get wrong about this ladder. 1, most of that big money at the top isn't guaranteed salary. It's bonus and stock, which means it moves with the market and the firm's performance, not just your job title. 2, the jump from associate to VP and VP to MD isn't automatic. A lot of people get up or out at along the way, meaning if you don't get promoted on schedule, the expectation is you leave. It's less a ladder and more a very long, very expensive game of musical chairs. So here's my actual, professionally unqualified ranking. Happiness peaks at level 1. Broke, exhausted, but blissfully unaware of what's coming. It bottoms out somewhere around level 3 or 4, the too much responsibility, not enough power zone. And it doesn't really recover until level 7, when you're finally rich enough to stop caring what anyone thinks of you, including Congress. A lot of people assume everyone just stays, climbs the ladder, rung by rung, until they retire at level 7 with a yacht and a bad knee. That is not what happens. Frank, multiple industry studies have found that a huge chunk of junior bankers, some put the number as high as 40 to 45%, leave the industry entirely within their first 3 years. And it's not because banking suddenly stopped paying well. It's because private equity firms have figured out they can offer a 22-year-old more money, saner hours, and a straight shot to buy the company instead of just advising on the deal, and they now start recruiting analysts before those analysts have even finished training. Cutaway gag. Frank, this is exactly like my old college roommate, Kevin, who left our fraternity's intramural dodgeball team 18 months in because a rival team offered him a starting position and, in his words, better snacks at halftime. Kevin, it was a church league. There was no halftime. Frank, here's the other thing nobody tells you. The money at the top isn't just bigger, it's stickier. Banks call it golden handcuffs. Once you're senior enough, a big chunk of your bonus is paid in stock that vests over several years. Leave early, and you walk away from money you already technically earned. That's exactly why the people at level 6 and 7 tend to stay put, while the people at level 1 and 2, who haven't been handcuffed with anything shinier than a company laptop, leave the second somebody offers them a better deal. Frank, and one more accurate wrinkle, none of these numbers are the same everywhere. A managing director in New York or London is typically pulling numbers at the higher end of these ranges. That same title at a regional office, or in a smaller market, can pay meaningfully less, even though the job title on the business card looks identical. The ladder's the same shape everywhere. The paycheck at each rung is not. If you're currently stuck somewhere in the middle of this ladder, crying in a bathroom stall of your own, first of all, hydrate. Second, drop your level in the comments. And subscribe because apparently the only way out of Wall Street is up. Same as my coffee bill. See you next time. Real quick, if you're new here, welcome, and go binge the rest of the channel after this because apparently that's how the algorithm works now. If you liked watching people make questionable financial decisions, go check out my video on the G-Wagon tax loophole. It's the one where I explain why half the finance bros on this app suddenly own a giant boxy SUV. Spoiler, there's a real tax rule about heavy vehicles and depreciation buried in there, and my accountant made me promise to say consult a professional at least once, so consult a professional. And if you want to see where this whole levels of format started, go watch my original video ranking the levels at one specific giant bank. I won't say the name again because legal asked me very nicely to stop, but you'll know it when you see it. Same jokes, same crying interns, extremely worth the 6 minutes. Okay, rankings. Let's get back to it.